These are the Algebra 1 3.4 notes for day 1. All right, so if you go ahead and look at this cumulative review right here, this is just a review from chapter 2. It's solving the inequality. So remember, we want to get x by itself. So first I'm going to subtract 3. I have negative 8x is greater than negative 48. And then I divide by negative 8. And remember, when you divide by a negative, you must flip the sign. So it's x is less than 6. And what that graph would look like would be an open circle at 6 pointing left. All right, and this review on B is from our current chapter. Is it linear or nonlinear? So remember, you look at the pattern. So the x's are going up by 2 consistently. Now look at the y's. From 21 to 18, you're subtracting 3. And each time you're subtracting 3. So that is linear. And we would say, as x increases by 2, y decreases by 3, and this is a constant rate of change. Okay, so what we're doing today is we're learning something called function notation. Okay, so function notation looks like this. It's f with parentheses x. All right, how you say that out loud is you say f of x. And it just is another name for y. So instead of y equals, we can say f of x equals. So if f is a function and x is a number in its domain, then f of x is the output that corresponds to the input of x. So the input is x. Notice it's in the parentheses right here. It's the input. And so f of x, the whole thing, is the output. And like we said, it's read of f of x is how we say that out loud. Or if it's different letters, like let's just say it's this, we'd say g of t, just as an example. Okay, so let's zoom in on this. So example 1a, it gives us this function. This is just instead of y equals, it says f of x equals this. Evaluate when x equals 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to do f of 2. All this tells us, this statement says 2 is my input into function f. F is just the name of the function. So that just tells me what I'm doing. And then I actually input it. I plug it in. And so if I do the math on that, negative 4 times 2 plus 7 is negative 1. So literally what this means is when x equals 2, f of x equals negative 1. So when the input is 2, the output is negative 1. So this is the input. This is the output. So think of f of x as just the name of the function. The name is f. All right, now if we try it when x equals negative 2. This just is f of negative 2. It says plug negative 2 into function f. So we plug it in, and we can use our calculator if we need to, and we get 15. So what this means is when x equals negative 2, and you plug it into function f, the output is 15. Okay, so look at this one. This says g of x equals this equation. So the name of the function is g. So it's just function g. This basically right here is saying when I plug in 4 to function g, what's the output? The input is 4 right here. And it's asking me what the output is. So I'm going to do plug in 4 to function g. This left side is just the name of it. It's not doing any math on the left side. It's just telling us what we're doing. So this g of 4 is literally just saying, hey, I plugged 4 into function g. Now this side is where the math is happening. So we do negative 1/2 times 4 plus 3, and I get 1. So g of 4 equals 1. What that means is when the input of 4 is plugged into function g, the output is 1. Or it's the same as this point, 4, 1. Inputs 4, outputs 1. Okay, it says using the graph, find the value of x so that f of x equals 4. So what this means is find the x that gives an output of 4. Now, they're telling us use this graph. So if they want an output of 4, then that means they want a y value of 4. So look for a point that has a y value at 4 That's this point. Do you guys see it has a y value of 4? So what x value gives us the y value of 4? Just go down and find out. The x value is 2. So x equals 2 to get a y value of 4. All right, look at this one. Using the graph, evaluate this, f of -1. See how the -1 is in the parentheses? That means it's the input, which means it's the x value. So what it's saying is, use the graph. When the x value is -1, what's the output, or what's the y value? So come over here and look for an x value of -1. That's here. All right, this one has an x value of -1 right here. And so what's its y value? You just look over here. Its y value is -5. So what that tells me is f of -1 equals -5. Okay, we're going in kind of a weird order today just to go with our activity. So that was example 1. We're going to go ahead and do example 2 and 3 with day 2. Let's skip down to example 4. So example 4 gives us this equation. It says h of x equals 2/3 x minus 5. So the name of this equation is h. Find the value of x. That tells me we don't know x, for which h of x equals -7. So what this tells me is we know the output is -7, and find the value of x means we don't know x. So that means don't plug it in for x because we don't know x. That's what we're looking for. Let the output be -7, so let it equal -7. So that's how we set it up, and from there, the setup is the only new part today. You guys are great at solving equations, so we just solve. We have -2 equals 2/3 x. Okay, to get rid of the 2/3, instead of dividing by 2/3, let's multiply by 3/2. Remember, when you multiply by the reciprocal, it will cancel out because we have 3 on top and 3 on bottom, 2 on top and 2 on bottom. So 3/2 times -2 is going to be -3. So what that means is when x equals -3, sorry, not f of x, this one's called h. H of x equals -7, or h of -3 gives us -7. That's what that means. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, this says g of x equals 1/3 x minus 2. So the name of this function is g. That's its name. So it says find the value of x. So once again, when it asks us to find the value of x, it means we don't know x, for which g of x equals -4. So that tells us the output of function g is -4. So set -4 equal to the equation. Remember, we don't know x, so don't plug it in for x. And now we solve. We're going to add 2. We get -2 equals 1/3 x. And we're going to times by 3/1. So we get -6 equals x. All right, so what this means is when x equals -6, g of x equals -4, or put it all together, when you take g of -6, that means you plug -6 into function g, the output is -4. You can say it both ways. Okay, let's just go ahead real quick and look at function 5. So it says to graph this function. Currently, we're pretending like we don't know any skills on graphing. So even if you know how to graph a function y equals mx plus b, we're just going to play along. They're saying, hey, you don't know anything about graphing yet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to plug in a couple points and get enough points and graph it. So I'm going to plug in -1, 0, and 1. So when I plug in -1, literally that's what I'm doing. I'm plugging -1 in for x. So I end up getting 3. I'm going to plug in 0 for x, just like this. I get 5. I'm going to plug in 1 for x. 2 times 1 plus 5, I get 7. Let's graph those points. So I have -1, 3. Then I have 0, 5. And then 1, 7. All right, and then draw your line going through them. And I would use a straight edge to make sure it doesn't get too crazy there. Should probably take my own advice on that. All right. Or count out a few more points if you need to, but if you just get out a ruler, it helps. Okay, and this is f of x. That's function f as that line.